As we're fighting to get him sustained, get his life sustained, we also have to fight a system that's telling us no, no, no.
Parents trying to save their son from a rare disease, but their insurance company is blocking the only hope for treatment.
It is a horrible sickness. In fact, kids born with a genetic disorder that makes them binge on food, and it is life-threatening. 13 Investigate shows you why one Indiana family is taking its fight to save Derrian public. Sandra Chapman shows you how the struggle up close of patients dying to eat.
Derrian Baker is in the middle of a life-threatening health crisis, but at this critical moment, a rare genetic disorder causes Derrian's body to crave food more than life itself. Difficult to watch. Derrian's father, Dan, keeps the camera rolling. He wants his insurance provider to see the gut-wrenching truth about Prader-Willi syndrome. Just hours earlier, Derrian visited with 13 Investigates at a northern Indiana nursing home. At just 4 feet 11 and 385 pounds, a stroll to his room demands effort with each step.
I know people look at him and they might say, well, why did you let him get this huge? Believe me, if it was in our control, he wouldn't have been this size.
Derrian is the 1 in 15,000 diagnosed with Prader-Willi syndrome every year. PWS causes weak muscles, poor growth, developmental delays, temper tantrums, and an insatiable appetite leading to obesity. Patients like Derrian are missing a chromosome where they can literally eat until their stomachs explode. Complications from obesity, diabetes, and severe respiratory problems are a constant threat to their lives. Just hours after his cries for food, Derrian was in the back of an ambulance. Soon he lay comatose in the ICU, the second time in 3 months. 13 Investigates has learned both critical emergencies might have been avoided with some preventative care. Last August, Derrian was accepted into a unique inpatient treatment program for Prader-Willi syndrome, the only facility of its kind in the world. But Derrian's Medicaid insurance provider refused to sign off on it. Indiana-based Anthem ruled inpatient PWS treatment is not medically necessary.
And yet you have somebody's life that's at stake. And the insurance is just standing its ground and saying no.
Dan and Deborah Baker say Anthem's denials are nothing short of a death sentence for their 26-year-old son.
You know, whether he lives or dies, it's really not their concern.
Derrian's doctors at the IU School of Medicine believe the comprehensive treatment is crucial. They wrote a 3-page letter to Anthem saying it is imperative that Derrian be strongly considered for admission into the Prader-Willi syndrome treatment program at the Children's Institute of Pittsburgh. The IU doctors treated Derrian for 50 days last fall for respiratory failure. He was on life support for nearly 3 weeks at that time.
It was scary, and I just, you know, I was broken.
Derrian was diagnosed with PWS when he was 3.
One day I told her I saw him getting some food out of the garbage can. And I say, something is wrong.
Controlling food for a young child is one thing, but the older Derrian got, the Bakers discovered he was willing to do just about anything to eat. He broke the locks on this garage freezer. Frozen food became a secret stash.
It was gone.
Nothing was there.
There was no food?
And I stood there and I started ready to cry because I'm just like, this is too much.
Bicycle chains on the fridge, locks on the pantry. Still, you can see the holes where Derrian's desire won out.
He's broken several locks off the cabinet.
The walls show the scars when Derrian can't get what he wants.
You punch a hole through it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
At 26, Derrian seems more like a 14-year-old. He likes basketball and wants to be social like he was in high school before gaining 100 pounds in a single year.
Do you ever get enough?
No.
How long has it been like that?
I don't know.
He knows he has Prader-Willi syndrome and believes the unit at the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh could change his life. We went to Pittsburgh to see the program for ourselves.
1, 2, 3.
21-year-old Sadie is 6 weeks in and has already dropped more than 20 pounds.
21, 22.
15-year-old Russell has had success too. On this day, he's struggling and checks out for a while
29.
before finally getting back to work.
30. Here you go, Rocky.
It's not an easy syndrome to understand.
Amy McTighe is the program director of the PWS unit.
It saves lives for kids with Prader-Willi syndrome. Right now, our success rate is at 98%.
Patients here are in a food-safe environment, meaning they can't get food until set meal times. Just 600 calories a day. That's it. And when the trays come, so does the stress. It's why each patient eats alone.
I'm getting used to it now because I don't get hungry anymore like I used to do.
Most of the day is focused on physical, occupational, and psychological therapies, all designed to get PWS patients moving, more healthy,
1, 2, ready, go. Hey.
and happy.
Welcome back.
Still, could this program help someone as sick as Derrian?
Absolutely. Patients come here in extreme crisis, having large BMIs. Many of our patients are not hospitalized again, which is a huge savings for the insurance company.
Why would an insurance company balk at that?
They feel that they can get physical therapy or occupational therapy or a lot of the therapies that we're providing in an outpatient setting.
It's exactly why Anthem said it denied Derrian a bed at the Children's Institute. No one from Anthem would speak on camera, but a spokesman told 13 Investigates the support provided is the best that Anthem can offer. The problem is patients like Derrian are sent to nursing facilities across the state that just can't handle his complex needs. Derrian's father says at least 16 Indiana nursing homes turned his son away. Dan says all they can do now is pray Derrian will stabilize and that Anthem will change its policies.
For every day you spend in ICU, that's equivalent to 7 days, 5 to 7 days of therapy.
You lose hope, you lose hope in people sometimes, you want to give up and just,
That's our son. We believe in a God that created him. We have him, and we're going to fight for his care. We're going to fight for those things that he rightfully do as a human being and as a citizen of the United States of America.
Now an update tonight, Derrian is back at home. His parents tell us Derrian was moved to a traditional Medicaid plan, but an Anthem spokesman denies that. It's an important distinction because traditional Medicaid has approved inpatient treatment at the Children's Institute in some cases before, John. Andrea.
Certainly hope he gets the help that he needs.
Yeah, is inpatient treatment just too expensive for him?
Well, in this case, not, John. In fact, this is Derrian's emergency and hospital stay record for the last 6 months. It totals nearly $1 million over the last 6 months. Now, if he had spent 6 months at the Children's Institute, it would have been about $250,000, and that would be for 6 months, but the most extensive program they have is 3 months. So clearly, with preventative care, it could have possibly saved $500,000 plus help Derrian to improve his health and to start moving in the other direction instead of this back and forth in the hospital. Of course, we'll keep you updated on this as more people now are joining his fight.
That's a tough case.
It really is.
Thank you, Sandra.
From Eyewitness News, this is 13 Investigates.
The director in charge of Indiana's Medicaid is facing questions tonight about the treatment denied for Hoosiers suffering from rare disorders.
Our 13 Investigates reporter Sandra Chapman brought us the fight to save Derrian Baker's life 2 weeks ago. Well, tonight the battle over insurance turns now to in-home care and why less money for programs can leave some patients falling through the cracks.
Come on, please, Derrian. No!
Derrian Baker is home and on his feet, but it's going to take a little more coaxing to get him to take a few steps for a new physical therapist sent to evaluate him.
Okay, you can turn her on. You can go back there. Thank you.
Anthem Insurance is now trying to get in-home Medicaid services for Derrian. 13 Investigates discovered the insurance company paying nearly $1 million for in and out emergency room and critical care visits over the last 6 months. At the same time, Anthem denied Derrian inpatient treatment at an out-of-state facility that could have possibly prevented the life and death episodes.
So this is a very complex case.
Joe Moser is now facing questions about Derrian's care. He is the Indiana Medicaid director. Indiana Medicaid pays Anthem to manage care for some of the state's sickest patients. Derrian's case has prompted a longtime consumer advocate who sits on the Indiana Medicaid Advisory Committee to join Moser in taking a closer look.
Well, anytime anyone is in danger of falling through the cracks, I think it's a problem.
Our priority is always to provide the most appropriate and medically necessary services to our members to make sure that they're adequately cared for.
Derrian suffers from Prader-Willi syndrome, a rare genetic disorder that causes intense hunger. He never feels full and will do just about anything for food. The constant eating leads to obesity and life-threatening diabetes and respiratory complications. Last summer, the country's only comprehensive PWS treatment center agreed to help Derrian, but Anthem said no, the facility was out of network and the treatment not medically necessary. Part of the problem is the Children's Institute is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not Indiana.
As it is the policy of Indiana Medicaid that we always keep our taxpayer dollars in the state, if at all possible.
Despite letters from Derrian's team of doctors and a recommendation from the National Prader-Willi Syndrome Association, Anthem denied the treatment. And Anthem is not alone. More health insurers are tightening the grip on inpatient rehabilitation services and programs considered experimental. Derrian's father sees it differently.
They're willing to risk his life and pay more money than to help him get to the place that he needs to be.
It means programs like the Children's Institute are forced to cut back. Weeks after 13 Investigates uncovered Derrian's dilemma, the Pittsburgh facility announced it is suspending inpatient admissions for adult patients with PWS, citing the changing healthcare environment by insurance companies.
Almost like begging them to understand the importance of why these patients need to come.
Good job. For now, with no comprehensive facilities in Indiana to take Derrian in, Anthem will try to piecemeal what Derrian needs at home.
There is still hope for Derrian. The program director at the Children's Institute in Pittsburgh tells me the center will honor its previously approved inpatient stay for Derrian if Anthem and Indiana Medicaid have a change of heart. Now, widespread discussions are underway. We're keeping tabs and will bring you the latest on saving Derrian as developments unfold. John and Andrea.
An Indiana senator is taking action on the heels of our 13 Investigates report, Saving Derrian.
There's a new resolution now headed to a Senate committee that asks Indiana lawmakers to examine Medicaid coverage for patients that are diagnosed with rare disorders.
13 Investigates reporter Sandra Chapman is here with more on what this could mean for Derrian and others.
This is how we lock this.
This is what it takes to create a food-safe environment at home for Derrian Baker.
We've been locking up things since we found out he had Prader-Willi syndrome.
He and other patients suffering from PWS are plagued by severe pangs of hunger caused by a genetic disorder. They can literally eat until the point of death and never feel full. But their bodies can't handle lots of calories. Even the smallest amounts of food can cause weight gain, leading to obesity. Limiting a patient's intake comes with another set of complications. Derrian is in the middle of a breakdown.
I don't want no salad. And you don't have to eat it. I don't want no salad. Okay, I'm going to put it before you go. I don't want no salad.
Nursing homes across the state say they can't handle the anger and the outburst. 16 have either refused Derrian a bed or recanted on inpatient offers. Yet the one facility wanting to provide specialized PWS treatment for Derrian is not an option, according to Anthem Insurance and Indiana Medicaid.
It is the policy of Indiana Medicaid that we always keep our taxpayer dollars in the state, if at all possible.
Indiana Medicaid pays Anthem to manage a part of its system. Anthem ruled inpatient care for Derrian at the Children's Institute in Pittsburgh was not medically necessary and out of network. It means all Derrian can get now is in-home care.
Definitely disappointing knowing that the family identified caregivers that can aid and assist, and the state and the other health agencies weren't able to make sure they can access that help.
Indiana State Senator Eddie Melton of Merrillville represents the region where the Bakers live. Melton introduced a Senate resolution asking lawmakers to dig into Indiana's Medicaid system to see how and why the state and its providers are denying access to out-of-state and out-of-network facilities for patients with rare disorders.
Not just for one particular family, but for all families with rare disorders.
Senator Melton questions whether saying no makes financial sense.
I don't want no salad!
He says the blanket denials place undue stress on families with loved ones facing life-threatening consequences.
The Senate resolution is now in the Health and Provider Services Committee. The director of Indiana Medicaid has already agreed to take a closer look at Derrian Baker's case. Lawmakers will decide whether to launch a study committee to look at insurance and rare disorders this summer.
From Eyewitness News, this is 13 Investigates.
State lawmakers have agreed to take a closer look at an issue exposed by our 13 Investigates team last month.
Derrian Baker has a rare disease, and today his parents helped convince state lawmakers to set up a committee to review how Medicaid covers patients like him who need special care.
He had suffered congestive heart failure.
Deborah and Dan Baker shared their family story with state senators.
And this is our child, and we're going to fight.
It's a fight for medical coverage the Bakers believe would save their son and improve his quality of life. It's medical coverage their Medicaid insurance provider has repeatedly denied.
Do you ever get enough?
No.
It's a battle our 13 Investigates reporter Sandra Chapman brought to us last month when she introduced us to Derrian. He is diagnosed with Prader-Willi syndrome. It's a rare genetic disorder that causes intense, never-ending hunger. Patients are at risk at eating themselves to death. The syndrome also causes Derrian's behavioral issues and life-threatening complications like obesity, diabetes, heart failure. Last summer, at his doctor's recommendation, the only comprehensive PWS treatment center in the country agreed to provide care for Derrian. It's in Pittsburgh, and Indiana's Medicaid provider, Anthem, said no, that he could be treated in Indiana. But Dan says at least 16 facilities here have turned Derrian away because they just couldn't handle his needs. The Baker story caught the attention of their state senator, Eddie Melton.
This is a clear case of a Hoosier family that was falling through the cracks of the system.
Lawmakers responded by voting unanimously.
10-0.
I'm hoping that after the studies committee, we can figure out, we can ensure that Medicaid in the state of Indiana is going to make sure that every Hoosier, regardless of if they need to find services in the state or out of state, get the services they need to survive and to stay healthy.
We want to get the awareness out there, not only just for Derrian, but it's a whole lot of other families besides us who are going through the same thing.
We have nothing really other than our ability to be advocates for our son and then to be advocates for other people.
Well, tonight we have some sad news to tell you about.
Derrian Baker, the young man with Prader-Willi syndrome who was fighting for insurance coverage for out-of-state care, has passed away. Our Sandra Chapman first introduced us to him, and she's here now with this last chapter to his story. Sandra?
Well, John, I just spoke with Derrian Baker's family a short time ago. His father says they found Derrian unresponsive in his bed early this morning. Derrian suffered from PWS, a rare genetic disorder that causes severe hunger and leads to obesity and life-threatening complications. Anthem Insurance denied Derrian coverage for in-hospital care at the Children's Institute in Pittsburgh, even after 16 nursing homes here in Indiana refused to care for him. Just last week, his parents were in Indianapolis and helped convince state senators to review Indiana's Medicaid coverage for patients like Derrian to make sure they weren't falling through the cracks. Now, tonight, Dan Baker says Derrian's passing makes him more determined to fight for the needs of those with rare disorders. Derrian was just 26 years old. He is survived by his father, Dan, his mother, Deborah, and a brother and sister. Back to you.
Family and friends said goodbye to Derrian Baker, the young man who has been at the center of several 13 Investigates stories. He died last week in the middle of a health insurance battle. Hundreds of people gathered in northwest Indiana to celebrate the 26-year-old who loved people and sports. Derrian suffered from a rare genetic disorder, Prader-Willi syndrome. PWS patients never feel full. Many deal with obesity and other life-threatening issues. Anthem, Derrian's Medicaid insurance provider, denied coverage for specialized treatment out of state, saying it wasn't necessary. But at least 16 Indiana nursing homes turned Derrian away, saying they couldn't care for him. Well, today his parents say that Derrian lost his life, but the fight is not over.
You know, we're sad that it had to be cut short, but you know, we know he's in a better place. He doesn't have to struggle anymore.
It is a very broken system, and we intend to fight and keep our son's name and his legacy alive.
This summer, state lawmakers plan to review Indiana's Medicaid system and potential gaps for patients with rare disorders. Tonight, an Anthem spokesman said they are sending their deepest condolences to the Baker family.
The parents of an Indiana patient who suffered from Prader-Willi syndrome say their son didn't have to die. Dan and Deborah Baker are now renewing their fight to get better insurance coverage for those with rare disorders.
13 Investigates first uncovered the plight of their son Derrian back in February. Now more families want Indiana lawmakers to see how lives are being saved with the help of a special out-of-state program.
Well, right now I'm just thinking of his big smiley face, how happy he would be.
Birthday balloons reflect the sunlight as Deborah and Dan Baker prepare a special launch in memory of the son they lost.
God, we thank you for all that you did for him and all that you're going to do in his honor and through him in the days to come.
A son whom they believe could have lived if Anthem Insurance and Indiana Medicaid had provided specialized care.
This is one of the most challenging things that we've ever done in life. That is, for any person, any parent, or anybody that loses a loved one is one thing. When it's a child, it's something else.
Derrian Baker would have been 27 years old.
Let go! Happy birthday, Derrian!
But like balloons in the branches, Derrian's path to treatment got caught up in a state Medicaid policy paying only for in-state care. He suffered from PWS, Prader-Willi syndrome, a rare disorder that causes patients to feel constant, intense hunger. It's also marked by life-threatening illnesses linked to obesity, diabetes, and respiratory distress. An inpatient PWS unit at the Children's Institute in Pittsburgh accepted Derrian for treatment a year ago. But Anthem, a contracted Indiana Medicaid provider, refused to pay for it, even though as many as 16 nursing facilities across the state turned Derrian away. The nursing facilities were not equipped to handle PWS and the behaviors that come with it. In April, Derrian died at home without the specialized care he needed. PWS families across the country were heartbroken.
My name is Russell Sullivan,
Including Russell Sullivan's family. 13 Investigates first met Russell at the Children's Institute in January. The 15-year-old was struggling with his workout, weighing in at just over 300 pounds. But take a look at him now. After 7 weeks in the program, he lost 32 pounds. And what he learned during inpatient treatment now works at home, too. He lost another 32 pounds and is reclaiming his life. What's even more remarkable, Russell's insurance also denied an inpatient stay at the Children's Institute initially.
31, 32.
But unlike Indiana, North Carolina Medicaid determined no state facility could provide adequate PWS treatment and allowed Russell to go to Pittsburgh
Great work.
for life-changing assistance. It's exactly what the National PWS Association had hoped for Derrian.
He had suffered congestive heart failure.
Lawmakers had voted to tackle Derrian's plight this summer.
There are many individuals across the entire state that reached out to me, particularly after hearing about Derrian's situation.
Senator Eddie Melton passed a resolution with overwhelming support to have a hearing on Medicaid coverage for rare disorders. But no summer study committee was set to hear the issue. Now, with bipartisan support, Melton vows to keep pushing the issue.
It's not just about Derrian, that it is a whole group of people that's out here that have been affected, that are being affected, and that will be affected if we don't make some wise decisions as it comes to this health care law.
Now, Republican Senator John Ruckelshaus says he will support efforts on his side of the aisle to get a review of Indiana's Medicaid for rare disorders in the 2018 legislative session, and we will poorest stay on it.
Be there to cover it. Thanks, Sandra.